Good evening. Welcome to the City Council meeting for the City of Crescent City. Hope you all had a nice Valentine's Day. Madam Deputy Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Yes, ma'am. Councilmember Westfall. Councilmember Burns.
Here.
Councilmember Murray. Here. Councilmember Slurt.
Here.
And Mayor Shalom.
I am here, thank you. Let's see, Mr. Sullivan, would you mind leading us tonight in the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We just got out of closed session, and Mr. Black, if you would please report out if there was any final actions taken.
Yes, Mayor. No final actions were taken in closed session.
Thank you very much. Before we proceed this evening, I'd just like to have all of us either think about or send a personal thought or prayer out for the Rich Creek family. Mr. Rich Creek has been missing since Sunday afternoon. He's 85 years old and left his house around noon with his pickup and his dog to go for a long walk with his dog and never returned. He's a diabetic and has not had his medication. His family is, his family and also Del Norte Search and Rescue is out there looking for him daily. So if you could just think about him and his family, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
As would I.
Okay, the most important part of the evening. We are very proud of our police department, and Mr. Plack is here to swear in our newest officer, someone I'm proud to know that is out there protecting our community, and he and his family are friends of mine, and so I'm very happy tonight to swear in our newest officer, Mr. Joe Sullivan.
Mike Sullivan, please come up here, please.
Joe.
Joe.
Joe. You said Mike.
Mike, you can come up here too.
You want to be deputized, Mike? Come on up.
Sorry about that. Sometimes it's a hard break.
Mr. Platt, could you sit down and start over?
Well, am I ready yet?
I am.
I'm not on video yet, but I guess we are. The Crescent City Police Department would like to introduce to you the newest police officer added to our ranks, Joseph Sullivan. Joe grew up in Crescent City, graduating from the Del Norte High School in 1990. He went on to earn a bachelor's degree in business administration from Oregon State University in 1995. After spending 12 years in the furniture business as a sales representative, he had a well-balanced life experience, including living in 7 different states. Joe realized that being a police officer was his calling. With a family in tow, married his wife for 13 years, Molly, who's 3 years old, as well as Jack, who's 5 months old, Joe moved back to Crescent City and paid for a position to attend the College of Redwood Police Academy in Eureka. He graduated in the top 5 in his class. First time I met him was at the academy when he had to sit through some of the most boring classes he was required to take from me. But he told me he wanted to work for the Crescent City Police Department, and he did not waver from that. When Joe graduated from the academy, we did not have any positions available, but he remained true to his dream. Graduating in the top 5 of his class made him extremely marketable, and he could have taken a number of police departments that offered him a position. Unfortunately, that would take Joe and his family away once again from Crescent City. Joe decided to take a job with the Yurok Tribal Police Department as a peace officer and remained in that position until he successfully passed our hiring process. I found Joe to be an enthusiastic, proactive individual that is sincere to his chosen profession. He's very focused, and having the most important feature to be a successful police officer, he also has a good sense of humor. During our conversations, he informed me that law enforcement has always been a goal in his life since he was a child. Joe has a very low-key and controlled manner about himself, while displaying a consistent and professional demeanor, and is capable of projecting an effective command presence while showing empathy and possess the good interactions with the community. I'm very proud and pleased to be able to offer Joe a position on the Crescent City Police Department. Joe is currently involved in and is expected to satisfactorily complete a thorough and intensive 16-week FTO program with the police department. Now, even at this time, it is evident that his parents, Karen and Bill Sullivan, have instilled his work ethics and all the qualities we're looking for as a police officer. And it's also obvious in his extended family, who are pillars of the community, are also proud of him and support his goals and his dreams. Once he gets through his police training, I believe he will serve the public as a reliable and dependable police officer with one strong sense of duty to the department and the community. Joe has requested that his wife, Mary, pin his badge on him. So, Mary, would you please come up here? Molly can come too. That's fine too. Okay, Joe. Right?
Please proceed.
My name. I, your name,
I, Joe Sullivan,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
domestic,
that I will bear true faith
that I will bear true faith
and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States
and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California.
that I take this obligation freely
I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservations
without any mental reservations
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well
and I will well
and faithfully discharge
faithfully discharge
the duties upon which I am about to enter.
the duties upon which I'm about to enter.
Okay, to Crescent City citizens, I present to you for the very first time Officer Joe Sullivan of the Crescent City Police Department. Sure, go ahead.
Just briefly, I'd like to say I'm honored to not only be accepted into the police department here in Crescent City, but I'll be honored to serve the citizens, that they come first prior to myself. And I would like to personally thank my wife for all of her patience during the academy, and my family for being so supportive. Thank you.
So before you all leave, there's a pretty special woman out there besides Mrs. Mary Sullivan, and that's Karen Sullivan, and I'm just so proud of her. She has a wonderful family, and I just think that Joe's family and Karen, who's his mother up front, should stand as well. Thanks for being here. You know, being a city police officer comes with a lot of stress and a lot of commitment to the city. And I witnessed it firsthand just a couple weeks ago when I went to Miss Molly's, I think her 4th birthday party. 3rd? Sorry, Molly. And Mr. Sullivan was not there because he was serving our city in his first week on the job. And so I just want to say thank you, and I know there'll be lots of times like that And so I think that this entire community, I think it's very important that you know how important it is and that the job that you're doing, how much it means to all of us. So thank you very much. Okay.
Welcome aboard. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to the consent calendar. Bye, Molly. Bye, Molly. Bye, honey. She's so cute. For those of you that are interested, we will be swearing in our new sergeant for the police department at the next meeting, and the meeting following that, we will be swearing in a new reserve officer. And our intention, preliminary intentions for that third meeting, which should be sometime in March, will be to have a small reception for the families and the community members. So. Okay, we have a consent calendar. Approval of the regular minutes for February 1st. Approval of warrant claims for February 2nd through the 16th, and biweekly payroll reports.
I would move to approve the consent calendar, Madam Mayor.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Passes 4-1. Okay, we are going to adjourn to the Housing Authority briefly. And please note that all 5 members of the Housing Authority are here. And I will take public comment first on any Housing Authority matters of business. Seeing none, we'll close public comment and move on to the consent calendar, which is approval of the regular meeting minutes of January 19th and warrant claims for January 20th through the 16th.
So move.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. And we have an annual Housing Authority report that I asked to be on the agenda this evening. So our very capable Executive Director, Ms. Susie Mendez.
This is just an annual report.
Do you want to pull the microphone to you? Thank you.
Okay. This is just an annual report that I've made up for mainly the council members so that you can kind of just get an overview of what went on last year. And if you have any questions, you can just ask that of me. Basically, the Housing Authority, met all their goals, and we're pretty proud of what we have to do and the manner in which we do it. But if you want to go on to the actual report, I've just kind of showed you what our occupancy is there. As you can see that it went in January from 597, and then as you know, we attritioned up, and then because of the funding shortfall, we had to start attritioning down, and so it shows that we're currently approximately at 518 families that we're assisting. And then it gives you there again what our assistant payments to the landlord was, and naturally in December it was quite a bit less than it had been prior months. I kind of gave you an overview of our funding on the next page, what our HAP revenue was, we received actually $2,400 in fraud recovery. So we divide that between our administrative fees and our HAP, so we have to do that on a 50% basis. And so you'll see $12,000 there that went into our HAP revenue. And owner reimbursement, we had some reimbursement from owners because maybe tenants moved out and they hadn't contacted us, and so the owner had to reimburse us some money. So there you will see that our revenue was a little less than our expenses, and so that took us into some of our reserves. But at the bottom or the middle of the page there, you will see that our HAP reserves, we still do have a reserve of about $122,000. So, we're okay. This $122,000 in our reserves does not, I have not included the money that we received from, just lately from HUD to reimburse the tenants for their the payment that we reduced due to the subsidy to the payment standards that we had to reduce. So we do have that money there, and I did not include that, so that's kind of separate. Then our admin fees we received was, we did have to take a little bit of our reserves from that, which was pretty insignificant. It's like about $6,000 or so. So at the end, our reserves for our admin fees are about at $175,000. This year, for this 2010 funding, I just received notification that our funding is going to be, last year you see that we received $2,135,613. This year, our funding for calendar year 2010 will be $2,510,486 for a difference of about $360,000. So what I'm hoping we can do is add to our HAP reserves a little bit, and like by $100,000 or so, but we still will have some money to add some families. So that's what we're going to be doing. I'm not sure exactly how many families we're going to be able to bring onto the program, because I just got this information today.
Okay, great.
But that's good, because
That's good
our
news.
waiting list does have quite a few people on it right now.
So just in summary for the public, the city serves on an average in 2009 about 550, 575 families,
Correct.
providing them with housing subsidies. And an average expenditure that we make for those subsidies are about $200,000 a month.
Correct.
So that's a really great service that we are able to provide to our community.
Yes, it is. It's a lot for the small community that we have. Unfortunately, we do have a lot of tenants. We do have a large program, compared to most cities that are our size, but still, it's a very good program, and it helps a lot of families, with housing, and that's an essential need. Everybody needs a nice warm bed at night. That's always been my philosophy. So,
Thank you. Are there any questions of the council?
No.
No, I just want to commend you once again on getting 100% on every one of your indicators. That's phenomenal, I think, and so great job once again to you and your whole team.
thank you.
Thank you.
Susie, on the wait list, when people are categorized by several different areas, obviously they can qualify in more than one area. So is there a maximum number? For example, somebody can be extremely low, have a disability, be black.
Right. Correct.
So
I just kind of wanted to give you a little bit of an idea of what the database, what type of families.
but the bottom line is about 350 people, 344, currently are on the wait list.
Yes, this was from our current waiting list,
Okay.
344 applicants. And that's because we've had to attrition. Usually our wait list isn't this large, but because we haven't been able to bring anybody onto the program since like mid-year in 2009, this has just continued to grow. And so you can see at the pace that it does grow if we're not able to, bring some people off. So hopefully by this time next year, you won't be looking at 344 people on,
Well,
families on.
if you just look at numbers generally, it's about down 100. Is that families or individuals?
This is families.
Okay.
Well, we call them applicants, but it consists of a whole family. It's a head of household.
So for example, if you look at occupancy of January, 597.
That's 597. That's 597 families.
Right, not individuals, but families.
Right.
And it's the same with the wait list.
Right.
344 families. And they could consist of one person or 5 or 6.
Or 14.
Yes. So my point is the 344 would, if we were, I'm sorry, I sound like I'm in a tin can, so I don't know. You probably can hear me if I just talk. The 344 would be down approximately 100 if we could have if the funding would have been there. So the wait list would be about 1/3 of what it is now. Well, it'd be 2/3 of what it is now, down to 1/3.
Generally, we have about 200 families on the program.
You mean on the wait list?
I mean, on the wait list, excuse me. Yeah, so it's a little bit more than, it's up a little bit more than a third, but it's pretty close.
How soon can we, based on the additional funding, determine how many new families we can bring into the program?
I'll be looking at what our average HAP for each family is, and that will give me, and then divide that by 12, and that will give me kind of an analysis as to how many people we can bring on. We need to look at, though, sustaining those for the entire year. So
Right.
there's kind of a program that I go through to kind of look at that. But
So maybe within 60 days?
oh yes, yeah,
Okay.
within a week or two, I can kind of tell you how much, how many families we're going to bring on.
Do you need our support in adopting this, or just having it on here?
I think it's informational.
I think it's just.
I just thought it was good information, so I asked that we have it put on the agenda. Okay, thank you very much. We have no public hearings or new business this evening, so we will adjourn to our next meeting for the Housing Authority of March 15th. And reconvene as the city's redevelopment agency. And please note that all 5 council members or directors are here. And I'll take any public comment on our redevelopment agency, Mr. Miles.
I have a question I'd like to ask, because when we had our budget meeting, the subject of our redevelopment agency wasn't fully discussed. It's my understanding that before 2013, the city needs to revisit our our redevelopment plan. I believe it's redevelopment 1 that we need to revisit. We may have to incur some indebtedness to keep redevelopment 1 going. Most of redevelopment 1 is in our downtown area. I'd like to know if, Kelly, when you plan your town hall meeting, will the redevelopment, I understand the city staff is progressing on our redevelopment plan. But here's the question I have. If we do not do anything, we have given people grants, which I'm not against, but we also made a series of loans to people. When we make those loans, we indebt our redevelopment agency, because it's money going out, and over a long period of time, funds come in. I'd like to know, maybe at the next meeting of the redevelopment authority, is how much in debt we currently are at. Because the only way we get, there's a fancy word, and I think Dennis knows about it. It's called, we got to go into debt to make money, and there's a word for that. I want to know how much we may have to go into debt to keep our redevelopment agency alive and well.
Thank you, Mr. Miles. Is there any other public comment? Seeing none, we'll close public comment. And can I get an approval for the consent calendar to approve the meeting minutes of January 19th and the warrant claims of January 20th through February 16th, 2010?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Slurt and seconded by Catherine Murray.
Oh,
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0. Mr. Butler, is there anything to add this evening?
No, other than to say that at the March 15th meeting, which will be the next regular meeting at the redevelopment agency, we will have some actions for the council to take, for the agency board officially in that case, that have to do with some of the specific issues that Mr. Miles was addressing. So I've been working with our new RDA council on that, and she'll have everything ready to go for that March 15th meeting.
Thank you. Okay, we have no new business, so we will adjourn and reconvene as the city council and move on to our public hearing this evening. We have a public hearing to receive comments regarding the application of Chris Oman for a taxi cab operation permit. Just a little housekeeping here. I've been told this is considered a quasi-judicial hearing. Therefore, everyone that speaks tonight will be sworn in to tell the truth under penalty of what? Perjury? Is that what it's called? Under penalty of perjury. And so at this time, I will let Mr. Butler provide us with a brief summary, and then we will move forward with the public hearing.
Great. Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. This will be a first for everyone, probably except Mr. Burns. It's been, as far as we can tell, about 8 years since we have had a taxi cab application in Crescent City. It was back in 2002, at least that's the last record we could find. But this is an authority that the council has under our municipal code, section 5.24, and we included that for that section for your review, for those of you that are interested in what authority you have under the code. But it's a common thing in cities up and down California. Obviously, in larger cities, it happens more frequently. But we do have an application tonight from Mr. Chris Oman. We currently have two active taxi cab permits in the city, Del Norte Taxi Service and Comfort Cab Company. This would be a third and competing service. Holders of taxi cab permits do pay an annual taxi cab permit fee, which is $50 per vehicle, and they also pay an annual business license fee, which would currently be $41.50. As part of the application process, the Crescent City Police Department does a background check on the applicant, so that has been completed. And the council has the responsibility to review the application. We've included those materials in your packet. And then to make a determination after holding the public hearing of whether you want to actually make a finding of public convenience and necessity for this service and then issue a taxi cab permit. So what we're asking you to do this evening is to conduct that public hearing on this specific application. And then also our recommendation from the staff at this time is that you do make that finding of public convenience and necessity, and that you approve the application from Chris Oman for a new taxi cab permit. And that concludes our staff report. Mr. Black will give me the language, so if we do have people that choose to speak, we can go ahead and I'll swear them in with under my city clerk authority.
Okay. I think we all have a few questions before we proceed. I know that I do. I know that you said that background checks are done on the owner, and I'm curious what that consists of and if it applies to employees, and if those employees are subject to drug tests, and also if the automobiles that are driven are subject to safety checks.
I'm going to ask the chief to come down and help support me on this one, because I know he was involved in the background check, but I know that there was a fingerprinting check done of the applicant himself. No employees at this point, because I believe this would be a one-person operation. We can have the applicant address that. But right now, I do not believe that we have any provisions that would require drug testing or employee background checks. Chief Plack, if you want to expand on that a little bit and let me know, let the council know what your background check consisted of besides basic fingerprinting or DOJ check.
They are cleared through fingerprints to FBI and the Department of Justice to check to make sure that they have no history or active history.
So I'm assuming that the reason for that is because for the safety of the residents, their customers.
Absolutely.
And so I'm just wondering if all taxi cab employees that are driving our residents are subject to the same?
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. It's not only just the owner of it. We're constantly getting different drivers coming in that have to go through a fingerprint for the FBI and the Department of Justice as a clearance, part of that.
And what about the employees, and maybe it's just a company policy of whether or not they drug test their employees?
Well, I think it's the policy of the company, as well as one of our requirements to make sure the safeguarding the community as well. And it's one of the requirements, because, I'm sorry?
So we do drug test the employees of every taxi cab business?
No, we don't do that. I don't believe we do. We just do the background checks.
Okay.
We don't do the drug screen. We don't do anything else.
Can we require that as a city?
Well, you can put whatever requirements on there as far as I'm aware of.
Well, I'm not just thinking about, it just made me think about the big picture. You know, even, like the bus system, they're driving families and elderly people and children and.
I believe that is their responsibility to make sure they go through it. No different than if the city of Crescent City hires somebody, it's our responsibility to make sure we do a drug screen and psychological, not that they would go through that as far as their requirements. Because they had to, go ahead.
And the automobiles that they drive to carry customers, are those subject to safety checks?
We don't do that. If they do that, it would be through CHP. We don't require that.
I think our municipal code, when I read this, says safety and sanitation. It says every taxi cab shall at all times be subject to the inspection of any police officer or sanitary inspector of the city. So in our own municipal code, our law enforcement does have jurisdiction that they can. It doesn't say that they will. Then it also talks about drivers or owners. So if we wanted to do any kind of, I think if we want to do any kind of drug testing, that would have to put that in our municipal code for it to be enforceable. For example, with Redwood Coast Transit Authority, that's drug testing is part of that business's policy. So that's up to the business. But in our municipal code causes the owner, that's why they have insurances and liability insurance, that's what they need to cover. So as part of that, they may or may not do that, but it's their responsibility to make sure their drivers are safe.
I think that's also from the requirements of the PUC as well. So we hold the minimum requirements, which is what they have to abide by through the PUC in order for us to be able to do the background checks themselves, because that comes from the requirement of the business, and then they can add whatever on there that they need to as well, just same as any other entity.
Right, and of course, by law, you're not allowed to be driving under the influence as it is, so.
Well, it's a different violation too, and where you're bringing, driving people around, so you fall under a different, a higher standard.
You have a different license too.
Yeah, that's my point.
Is it Class C or something? Chauffeur's permit?
Yes, and their blood alcohol content on those are lower than the average citizen as well too. So.
Mr. Slur? Ms. Westphal?
Nothing.
Okay. Mr. Black?
If I may, as you approach this task of deciding whether to issue a certificate of public convenience and necessity, the code does give you some guidance as to how to approach that, particularly in section 5.24.050, which is part of your agenda materials. But basically, the two findings that you're supposed to make are that further taxi cab service in the city is required by public convenience and necessity, and two, that the applicant is fit, willing, and able to perform such public transportation and to conform to the provisions of this chapter and the rules promulgated by the City Council. So those are the two findings that you're going to need to make. And the B section of that 5.24.050 states that in making those findings, you're supposed to take into consideration, 1, the number of taxi cabs already in operation, 2, whether existing transportation is adequate to meet the public need, 3, the probable effect of increased traffic on increased service on local traffic conditions, and 4, the character, experience, and responsibility of the applicant. So you need to make 2 findings, and in so doing, you're entitled to, in fact, required to consider those 4 things.
Are those updated ever for current taxi cab companies?
You mean, is there like a reissuance process?
Mm-hmm. Do they have to?
Only if they let the permit expire and they have to be re-permitted.
I think as long as they're paying their business license and their permit fee on an annual basis, that's about the only annual review we do.
Strictly a reissuance.
Okay. Is there ever a process where a cab company or a bus company is not meeting the standards, or there's complaints against them that they can have their permit revoked?
Well, I think you could undertake a process to revoke a permit if you had cause to do that.
Okay, thank you.
You could also amend this ordinance, to include additional criteria, reapplication every 5 years, 10 years. I don't think you could make it so often as to become onerous, but if you wanted to have a reissuance process, you could probably do that.
Even in the municipal code, it talks about they're subject to the laws of the state code and any other ordinances. Such license shall be subject to cancellation at any time without previous notice. So if they violate any state law provisions of this code or ordinances of the city, i.e. building permit, etc., we can revoke the license and the permit. So it's in the code already. We can do that.
Okay. Thank you. I think anytime we have a new process for the council, it brings up a lot of questions. So it's good to be able to have those questions answered. And at this time, I'm going to open the public hearing at 6:38 p.m. And for those of you that would like to speak, I think, well, should we have the applicant speak first?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. We'll have the applicant come forward if he would like to, not required, and speak. And before you speak, Mr. Butler will swear you in. So you can come forward. And for those of you that are unfamiliar with the public comment process, up here there's a light system. And so when the green light comes on, it comes on when you start speaking. And you get a total of 3 minutes to speak, up to 3 minutes. When you have 30 seconds left, the yellow light will come on. And when it's time to wrap up your comments, the red light comes on. That kind of helps you out with a guidance. Welcome.
Thank you.
Pardon me?
She could be held 3 minutes since he's presenting. It's kind of up to you.
Yeah. I think if he has pertinent information, that we can allow a little extra time. Sure.
Why don't you give your name and either your personal or business address, whichever you're most comfortable with, and then I'll walk you through this one question.
My name's Chris Oman. I live at 820 C Street.
And you can actually pull that up to you. It'll actually move. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Oman, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in the testimony that you will give here tonight?
I do.
Okay. Tell us about yourself and what your goals are.
My name's Chris Oman, like I said. I'm trying to get another cab company into this town. I've been a cab company driver for a couple years now, so I do have experience in it. And with the growing, population that we are occurring, we got the casino expanding, the airport. A lot of businesses are going to be expanding in this next few years coming up. So it's going to require a lot more people coming into our town, and they're going to need public transportation. So I feel like I have the experience and determination to meet all your guys' requirements to become a business in this town. And I think that by me getting out there and providing, safe public transportation, that it'll occur a lot of people, to get home safely, especially on nights that we're having 4th of July events or, New Year's, special nights like that. There's more public transportation to get people home safer.
And at this point, you're planning to just have one car in operation?
Yes.
Okay. And how do you feel about drug testing?
I'll amend it. I'll have drug testing on all my employees.
That's good. Any questions of the council?
I do. I'm kind of like free enterprise, so you don't have a problem competing with other cabs or providing service?
No, actually, I encourage it. It actually will make them, step up and provide better service than they're providing, and the public will gladly accept that.
Providing you provide that service.
Right.
Someone else doesn't.
Any questions, Ms. Westphal? Catherine?
I didn't see where you have a name picked out.
Crescent Cab.
Mr. Slur? Anything? No? Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, we will open it up to other public comments. Mr. Miles, please keep your comments focused on a new cab company. And if you'll hold your right hand up and be sworn in, please.
Hey, Mr. Miles, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in the testimony that you will give here tonight?
I do have a concern, and let me explain my concern. Currently, in Crescent City, we have 2 cab companies. We have one cab company that's owned by a husband and wife team. I have used them when I have flown out of here and come back to Crescent City. I have rode in their cabs. Their cabs are very clean, well-maintained, and I believe they're probably the best cab company in Crescent City. Unfortunately, I do believe this body ought to look at how they do license cabs. We have another cab company. Well, guess where all their cabs came from? They were the beat-up sheriff's cars. They're death traps. Nobody's inspecting them. Their drivers, I've been told.
Mr. Miles, make sure that you are reporting accurate facts.
I am, Kelly. And you didn't send me a Valentine's card. That they take advantage of the seniors who like to go play bingo out to the casino. I have ridden in those cabs too. Not being inspected. Some of them reeked of marijuana. And they smelled B.O.N.P. And I can attest to that. I believe this council does need to tighten its rules about the cab companies. I'm all for competition, but if we have one bad cab company, why don't you do anything about it? Because here's what happens in this town. A lot of people, after 10 o'clock, when our public transit folds, has to rely on the cabs. I almost had to call the good cab company because I was going to rent them to take me down to McKinleyville to the airport. Because you know, my Cadillac only has 2 wheels. That's all I want to say.
Thank you. So if you'll state your name and whether you live in the city or the county, you don't have to give an exact address.
The county, my name is Joyce Lane, Comfort Cab.
What was the last name? I'm sorry.
Lane, L-A-N-E. Okay, the reason I'm...
Lonnie's going to swear you in.
Okay, sorry about that.
Ms. Lane, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in the testimony that you'll give here tonight?
I do. I encourage also, for new businesses and that, but a few months back, we were here because of the RCT. That's how much it's damaged the taxi business also, because they not only do their fixed routes, they do home-to-home, which really cut into the taxi business. So since RCT has started doing the home-to-home, it's really cut back on service for us. It's dropped our business quite a bit. And I really believe at this moment, I don't want this to be personal towards anybody, but I just really believe at this moment another taxi service would be just too much. I mean, we personally only run most of the time 1 cab at a time for Comfort Cab. And if it's necessary, we'll call it a second one, but that's usually at the first of the month and on the holidays and on the weekends. But other than that, it's only 1 service needed. And I can't affirm for Downward Taxi, but I do realize that it's just not busy enough for another cab service. And I'm really sorry about that, but it really did damage us too when RCT came in, because when they start doing like I said, the home deliveries, and they're also government subsidized, we have to pay for everything ourselves. It just crunched us. So I mean, I wish that it would be profitable for a third one. It'd be great for all of us. But I just think, financially, it's just not possible, because we're so limited on how many people are in this area that actually need a taxi, that it's just, I don't think it'd be necessary for a third one, And I'm going by our own financials and how busy we are. And there's like days that we just sit around, we have like 2 or 3 calls a day, and we have to make our house payments with this, we have to buy food, we have kids in college, we have all the same responsibilities as everybody else. But if there's not enough business, for everybody, I don't know how that third is going to help out any. And personally, that's just all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment? Sir?
Hello. Hi, Bob Black. Hey. Anyway, my name's Ricky Lane. I need to be sworn in.
I'm sorry, Ricky
Lane. I'm her husband. I'm very proud of her.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Lane, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in the testimony that you will give here tonight?
Yes, I do. Anyway, I'm in charge of the finances. We're struggling. We barely make our mortgage every month. This past weekend, my other driver came on at 6. I try to make sure everybody makes money. So my other drivers, I let them take the main phone and I back them up. I started backing them up at 6. I didn't get my first call till 11:30. I had 4 runs that night till 3 a.m. And we won't make it if another cab company comes in. There's no way.
What is your average number of calls a day?
During the day, it's about 14 right now. And at night, it depends. The beginning of the month, it's pretty good. Probably about 40 runs on Friday and Saturday each night. But towards the end of the month, my drivers, they wonder why the other guy's out there.
So an average is...
The week before last, Frank, who's on vacation, between the hours of 6 and 9 p.m., he had 1 run. So it's a weird business, but we will not make it. It'd just be hurting. Right now we do have the town covered. It would just be hurting one of the companies if you put someone else on.
So an average of 14 calls a day and 40 to 50 on weekends at night?
About 40. Maybe 1 or 2 weeks it's 40. The rest of the month it might be 25 to 30.
Just curious.
For 2 drivers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, for me, last week, I made $340 gross. That's before gas, so it's tough. My mortgage is $2,200 a month. I haven't made my mortgage this month. It's due on the 1st, so we're not getting rich out there. And RCT has hurt us, and they're government subsidized, like she said.
Okay, thank you.
And I think the other owners, Richard's doing a great job. You know, he's doing the best he can. You know, he's not getting rich either. You know, so we're just struggling.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any other public comment, sir?
My name is Richard Piercy. I live in the county. I'm the owner of Delnor Taxi.
Mr. Piercy, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in the testimony that you will give here tonight?
I do. I'd like to say, you know, I agree with Rick and Joyce Lane over there. They had a similar situation when they started their business, and it really cut in on ours. You know, the business went from probably 50, 60 runs, maybe 70 runs a day back then. Business was a lot better, to probably like 40 runs a day or 50 runs a day. So we really felt it over the whole thing. The way we operate is the main drivers usually get a little more business than the others. The other guys come out to help, and those guys were starving sometimes. And so it was really rough. We kind of got over that or got used to it, but we've never really recovered from that one. And then just a while back, Redwood Coast Transit changed their format, started doing door-to-door service. Never go again. We lost quite a bit of service. And you know, we do provide a service. We have a lot of little old ladies that we take down to shopping or, you know, to different things or whatever, and just charge them like $3. You know, we give a lot of breaks out there to the seniors and students, but that's even hard to do. And you know, when you're only maybe making 25, 30 bucks in a day, it's just really hard out there to, you know, to keep the good attitude and give the breaks to the people and keep them happy. But I've got a great crew. Everybody loves them. Comfort Cab, they provided a pretty good service as well. I mean, you know, we do have the majority who've been here for a long time. I've had the business 20 years. And another company, just take another bite out of it. I have 4 cars. There was a point here a couple of years ago when I could use most all those all the time. Now I have 2 cars sitting most of the time. And of course, I still have to pay insurance on those and everything else. So it just, every little bite into it takes away from us, and
Thank you.
I don't think it would be good for any of us.
Just curious, I'm just thinking about this ordinance in general, completely outside of Mr. Omen's request, but do you guys do drug testing for your employees?
It's never been mandatory. I have always presented with any new applicant that there would be drug testing. I always haven't pushed it, only if they give me any reason to. And I have had people go get tested and, you know, taken whatever steps from there, either dismiss them or whatever. But, yeah, it's not a standard practice, every applicant, but if they ever look like they should, if anybody ever says anything, you know, the driver goes and gets tested before they go back to work.
Mm-hmm. Are you guys the same policy? Okay, and then the other question, just in general, that I have is, what's your policies for keeping your cars in safe working order?
We do regular maintenance on them. We do buy used cars, you know, the police cars. But you know, you can get 300,000 or 400,000 miles out of those. Those are made for a lot of miles, and with the maintenance we do, we keep them up pretty good. I don't make enough money to provide new cars, and the insurance on new cars would kill me as well. So we do the best we can, and I don't think it's uncomfortable for the public. You know, it's if there's ever a complaint, it's always followed up. The drivers, if there's a problem with the car, they always report it, and you know, they do get the regular maintenance. So I won't put a car out there if I think it's unsafe.
I'm sure he'll thank you for that advertisement tomorrow. Okay, thank you. Is there any other public comment? Ma'am? You're too young to be called ma'am. I apologize.
Okay.
Your name first?
I'm Bridget Barnes, and I live in Crescent City.
Thank you.
Ms. Barnes, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in the testimony that you will give here tonight?
I do. I just wanted to say, with competition in this town, as far as that goes, it does hurt a lot of businesses because it seems like we do that with a lot of businesses. We will put too many out there, but I know I love it, like with having options. We have coffee corners on every single block. We have a coffee shop, and people, you know, if a business is slacking, then if it does hurt a business, then that's that, it happens, but that's like what makes them strive to do better. That's pretty much all I wanted to say. That I see if we had 3 taxi companies, then it just competition would make them strive to do better.
Okay, thank you. Thanks. Ma'am? That was Brenda Little. And you're a driver for who?
Delnort Taxi.
And do you live in the city or the county?
City.
Thank you.
Ms. Little, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in the testimony that you will give here tonight?
My concern is safety. And I understand that the applicant, although it was in his personal car, had an accident that involved personal injury to 2 or more people. Even though it was his personal car, I believe as a commercial driver that goes on to your commercial record. I don't know if he's going to be driving himself or he's going to be.
Do you have evidence of that accident that it?
I don't have evidence, but I know that it occurred. Delnort probably has the records of the accident because his insurance went up because of the accident. My concern is safety. I've got 20 years clean driving record, and if you're going to be driving around people, say I had my niece picked up, 4-year-old niece from school, I want that girl to be safe, and that's my concern. Thank you.
Thank you. Do the background checks include DMV records, Mr. Plack? Do the background checks require DMV records? And so you reviewed his DMV record? And were there any accidents reported on that DMV record?
For this particular...
For Mr. Oman?
No.
Okay. Is there any other public comment? Okay, we'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the council.
Madam Mayor, I've used at different times over the years both current cab services and have had good experiences. In concept, I want to support the notion of encouraging new business in our community, and I understand that it's challenging, different, if not difficult times right now. So I'm aware of that. On the other hand, I don't want us to become a city that excludes the notion of competition or new business development within our city.
Ms. Murray?
I was just wondering if Mr. Oman had developed a business plan and had studied what his competition is and understands what he's getting into. I mean, did he have? Okay, so.
Mr. Burns?
No, I think it's fairly, to me, if I'm going to start a new restaurant, hotel, or gas station, or grocery store, or a coffee shop on every corner, which we seem to have, that whatever plan you make, whether written or in your head or on a piece of paper or on the back of a napkin, that plan has to take into consideration if you're going to make a living at this or not. We do not deny restaurants or motels or gas stations or grocery stores or, heaven forbid, coffee shops from going through the proper permitting and licensing. And if they do so, then I don't think government should step in and say, no, you can't do it. I know that we have a municipal code on taxis, and I also know that we have a lot of licensing issues, permitting issues, insurances required by taxis, and assurances that the taxi will do for the city through a municipal code. So if all those things are done, fine. If there are complaints, if people have complaints because of taxi cabs are unhealthy, because they have odor or trash in them, or if they're not running properly, that's a complaint, and it can be made to the city or to the police or to the health department. Then we have jurisdiction to inspect that cab for whatever complaint is made. And I'm not sure if people know that or do that, but they should if there's a complaint. Then I think it's incumbent upon us, since we're granting. It's just like a restaurant. If it's dirty and somebody complains to the health inspector goes and they either look at it and pull the permit or put a tag on it or say, no, it's okay. Same with taxis. There's a whole issue here, and if somebody wants to step out on a limb and say, I'm an entrepreneur and I'm going to have a new business in town, I don't think government should step in the way and say you can't.
Ms. Westfall?
I'm an entrepreneur, and I believe in competition. And what I don't like hearing is that Redwood Coast Transit has bitten into the existing taxi cab business. There's this government funding that helps certain elements to the detriment of private businesses. I see it in building low-income apartments, yet I don't see the entrepreneurs who are in the construction trades getting the same kind of concessions and help. So I understand the problem that you're faced with. I don't know what the solution is, but I am in favor of competition, and I am in favor of fairness, and I wish that there was a way so that a subsidy or something could be allocated to the existing taxi cab businesses to make it more fair with what's been going on over the last few years.
I don't think it's the last few years. Dial-A-Ride's been in existence from door-to-door service since my kids were little, and that's over 30 years ago.
I rode Dial-A-Ride as a child.
That's more than 10 years ago, huh? So,
Barely.
So Dial-A-Ride is not
times 3
in the last few years. Dial-A-Ride's been around for many years.
Yeah. I would just like to remind anybody that's, you know, the reason this comes to the council is because you are entrusted with our residents for their safety. And so I would just like to remind those of you that are entrusted that you are held to a higher standard, and that you just, I'm just putting this out there in general, that you make sure that, you know, you are driving respectful cars and safe cars, and that you're taking our children, our residents, and our seniors from place to place in a safe manner. I would just remind you of that. I too am in favor of competition. I think the market will determine who is successful and who is not based on your business and your ability to perform your business successfully. It's the way America works for the most part. So, and I do feel bad that, you know, that some of your business has been cut into by a semi-subsidized service. And we can, you know, we actually have a representative that sits on the Redwood Coast Transit Authority Board of Directors, so we can have that discussion at some point in the near future as to what that may or may not mean. So at this point, Mr. Black, what is our next step?
Make a motion. I move that we find that we do approve of a public convenience of this new taxi cab and approve the application for Chris Oman for his permitting. That's all you need.
The only thing I would ask is that you add that the council makes the findings required by section 5.24.050
Of the municipal code?
Of the municipal code.
I'll add that to the front of my motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, would you please pull the vote?
Councilmember Westfall?
Yes.
Councilmember Burns?
Yes.
Councilmember Murray?
Yes, and I hope that we get a large population and that business starts to boom very soon so that you all thrive.
Councilmember Start?
Yes.
Mayor Schlong?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for your input this evening. We appreciate it. We appreciate hearing from you as business owners. It's nice to hear from you. And good luck. We expect good things from you. Thank you.
Scared out of my mind to start the business right now.
Okay. We're going to move on to reports. Do we have any outside reports this evening, Mr. Butler?
No, Mayor, none tonight.
Okay. We're going to move on to general public comment. The member of any member of the audience is invited to address the council on any matter that's within the city's jurisdiction. Comments of public interest or on matters appearing on the agenda are accepted. Note, however, that the council is unable to undertake extended discussion or act on any non-agendized items. After receiving recognition from myself, please come to the podium, state your name, whether you live in the city or the county. And as I explained earlier, we do have a 3-minute time limit. Mr. Miles.
Hey, Kelly.
Hey, Richard. What's up?
I'd like to see my city become as progressive as a city that Bob Black was mayor of. I still find my letter from the city assistant clerk interesting. We're having these 2x2s, no minutes, no agendas. Well, there's a very progressive city called Davis. Maybe it's because it's a university town. Well, guess what they have? When they have 2 members of the city council on the Chamber of Commerce, they do minutes and agendas. When they meet, 2 members of the city council meet with the bid district of Davis. They have minutes and agendas. When they have meetings like we do at the fire hall, they have minutes and agendas. When they meet with the county, they have minutes and agendas. And lastly, when they meet with the Visitors Bureau, when 2 city council members are there, they have minutes and agendas. So I'd like to put this in the record, because maybe somebody would like to visit the website of the city of Davis.
Thank you. I will just point out that we do not have an official member that is appointed to the bid district. So if a city council person chooses to be a part of that meeting, they are doing so as a public citizen, and the bid district is required to agendize, and they do keep minutes.
I know they.
We have only one representative from the city council that sits on the Chamber of Commerce meeting Those meetings are agendized, and they do have minutes. When we meet at the fire hall, as you just recently participated in, Miss Patch was there keeping minutes.
No, I'm talking about when you meet with the school district, the harbor district.
When we meet with a county, that is posted, agendized, and minutes are kept. And when we have meetings with the Visitors Bureau, we have only one member of the City Council that is appointed to that committee.
Okay, now since you used my time, I'd like to mention something else.
I stopped it, Richard.
We have a number of people who live in this community that make their living fishing in our ocean. We had our senator do something that will kill fishing in this area for another year. And the gentleman that just retired from our Sea Grant office said something to me yesterday when I talked to him about this. And what I want you people to do, we have fish in the Smith. There's fish in the Rogue. There's fish in the Columbia. That's what we have for fish in our ocean. There isn't any fish in the Klamath, and there ain't no fish in the Sacramento. Barbara Boxer sold the souls of our fishermen out because she's going to allow more pumping of the Sacramento to feed the farmers in the Central Valley.
Okay, wrap it up, Richard.
Well, aren't our fishermen farmers too? And my question, I think this council should send Barbara Boxer a letter and Diane Feinstein and explain to her that people make a living up here fishing. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment? Ms. Mangum?
Jody Mangum, and I live in the city. Do you want to have me verify?
No, that was only for that was a quasi-juristic.
Okay.
Whatever.
So I was very happy to say that I always try to tell the truth when I get up here, and you guys know why I'm here. It's interesting to note that many allegations have been made that the sole bid on our wastewater treatment plant could have been fixed, but nobody on the council has ever looked into it. So now we get enough signatures to put this thing to vote as to whether or not it should be paid for. So I got to point out a few things to you guys. Colburn Electric is under penalty for payroll violation. Kelly, you talk about that because they want to go home and be with their families. It's a payroll violation. It's not the labor code. It's interesting to note that all the presidents of the joint venture on the wastewater treatment plant signed non-collusion agreements. Then I find out that O&M Industries awarded themselves the heating and air conditioning contract on the lab building. The lab building's heating and air conditioning, 2,500 square feet, cost $300,000 when it should have been around $10,000. I mentioned the $1,000 a square foot on the lab building, and Charles Sturt said it was mobilization. I don't know if you've had a chance to look at that, but you could correct the record because there is no mobilization on the lab building. There's $20,000 in travel. So the council's refusing to listen to the public. So the public goes out and gathers signatures so we can get a vote on this thing. If you guys don't look into this, what is it that you need to look into? Collusion, non-collusion agreement. If you don't listen to what the public's saying, it looks like, or could be construed as, malfeasance, misfeasance, or nonfeasance. I'm up here to state this for the public record. Oregon Electric's bid was $1 million less than Colburn Electric's. That's been brought up in the meeting. Did you guys ever look into that? That's called collusion. When the state increased, you guys went to the state and had the loan fee doubled. This community would have been happy to pay $19 million for a wastewater treatment plant. So to wind it up, the doubling of the one bid, which may have been fixed, comes back to the point that the bid was significantly padded, to say the least, so significantly padded that 4 of you guys voted to give Stover Engineering an extra $1 million, and Charles Sturt says that's normal for oversight on a project of this magnitude. The project, again, should have cost about $14 million, just like it did for Fortuna. You guys still aren't listening to people. We're still trying to get our voice heard. That's the reason it's going on the ballot. Thank you very much.
Any other? Krista?
My name is Krista Norton. I'm a county resident, and I pay city sewer fees. I do have questions in regards to the city sewer fees. This is now going on the ballot, I understand. Now, as a county resident, I don't have the opportunity to vote on this. I don't have the opportunity to sign or not sign the petition. My question is to Councilperson Westfall. What is your solution to this rollback? So you're going to roll back the fees if it passes. The fees get rolled back. What's your solution to coming up with the extra to get this taken care of? What's your solution to this? What is your solution to finding the extra money to get the treatment plant? Are we going to be looking at the state coming in and taking care of this because we don't have the money to put this together?
This is public comment, so.
Well, I mean, I understand it's public comment, but as a county resident, I don't have the opportunity to question these things because I don't have the opportunity to vote. Like many of us don't have the opportunity to vote. I understand, the best way to do that is through annexation. And I'm sure I'm going to be talking with Rod Butler pretty soon. But my question is, what's the answer to this? Where's that money going to come from? That's the question I put to you, but obviously I'm not getting any answer. So that might be something that the city residents might want to listen to. Were there mistakes made in the beginning of this? Absolutely. Were things not looked into as well as they could have been? Absolutely. But the point is, where's that money going to come from if you roll it back? That's my question. I don't want to have the state come in and tell me how to flush my toilet and how many times a day I can flush it. So, paying the extra fee, can I afford it? Probably not. But I don't want to have to dig an outhouse in my backyard. I hope you get my point.
I do, and I do believe there are other solutions.
Is there any other public comment? Mr. Renfro?
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
I just wanted to give you an update on the Crab, Wine, and Cheese Festival 2010. Ms. Rambo couldn't be here this evening because she's not feeling well. We have 10 sponsors of this event now. We have Albert Seafood, Romano Cheese, Pacific Power, Elk Valley Rancheria, Smith River Rancheria, 6 Degrees of Celebration, the Crescent City Business Improvement District, the Crescent City Del Norte Chamber of Commerce, the city, and Tri-Agency. So it's come together nicely. We're having a volunteer get-together tomorrow evening at 5 p.m. to assign tasks. Excuse me. So we've kind of got that worked out. We are working the bugs out, so to speak, of our radio-controlled crab race, which will have an event for the kids. We just got the handmade Redwood trophies for the best seafood chowder and clam chowder and crab dish, and they're gorgeous, very nice trophies will be awarded. We have 3 bands. We have the Joe Vasquez Band, the Waffler Effect, and the Stayed Light Band that will be performing there. And we have prizes for the coloring contest now. So it's all kind of coming together. We're pretty excited about it. We'll be coming to the council asking for donations for the Wall of Wine, if you would like to participate. Other than that, we're pretty much, we're hoping that the crayons come in tomorrow or the day after. Other than that, we're everything under control, I think.
Thank you. I had one quick question. Have you already signed the restaurants up for the competitions?
There are several of them that have submitted their applications, yes.
Okay, great. Good.
And I went around last week and hand-delivered applications to all the restaurants in the greater area. Sent some out to the Rancheria, Smith River, and hand-carried some out to Elk Valley. So.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. And just a reminder, for those of you that are listening
I forgot to say.
and or watching, the first annual Wine, Crab, and Cheese Festival is this weekend, Saturday, February 20th, from 4 to 9 p.m. at the Crescent City Cultural Center. Thank you. Is there any other public comment?
Yes. Donna Westfall, I live in the city. The editorial titled "Rate Rollback Ignores Reality" itself ignores reality. While your staff defends local government who has over-encumbered their constituents, the real city, as it were, the reality of the situation is reflected in Dixon, Rio Vista, Petaluma, Rohnert Park, and Vacaville, where citizens have to make a choice between eating or paying their sewer and water bills. How many turn-off notices will have to be placed before you realize government is the problem, not the solution? For the sewer rate initiative, Prop 218 supersedes Election Code 9214 and 9215 and allows for only 5% of the registered voters at the last gubernatorial election for ballot placement. With 1,711 registered voters and probably far less voting during that election, only 86 signatures maximum would have been needed. What is troublesome to me is the invalidation of 200 signatures due to inefficiency or incompetence within your county registrar of voters office. It seems that all the crooks in the government are colluding to stop the will of the people. Acorn would be so proud. How is it that people register to vote and conveniently the registrar doesn't acknowledge this in a timely manner? Are people supposed to personally show up and register? Why are people being disqualified for having moved and not updating their registration? Provisional ballots are provided at the polls to assure citizens of their right to vote. As long as the citizen still resides within the city limits, they are entitled to all of their rights to address their representatives. It would seem that the point of your attack on Donna Westfall is you don't like the fact that somebody is finally standing up and saying enough. The poor planning by city government, spending beyond their means, is symptomatic of the disease. The State Water Board makes illogical and unscientific demands. The state revolving fund bankrolls the tomfoolery, and you don't see a problem. No, the distracting antics are your own. Statesmanship and free thinking are what you fight. Next, you will tell us, like all the other cities before you, that police and fire will have to be cut. Threats, hysteria, and unfounded hyperbole is pap thrown before babies. Your citizens deserve more respect than that. They deserve to be treated as more than cash cows. By Michael Charamello, City Councilman, Dixon, California. Thank you.
Is there any other public comment? Okay, we're going to close public comment and bring it back to the council to move on to continuing business. We're going to consider and adopt the second reading of Ordinance 753, which is adding 9.18, prohibited solicitation to the City Municipal Code. We have the full reading and read by title only. And Mr. Plack, was there any update to this code based on your conversations with Mr. Perez since our last council meeting?
I did contact Mr. Perez about it. He's going to check into it a little bit more deeper than what he has. Meanwhile, we've checked into the ADA requirements as well, and we will probably go ahead and have a amendment to the ordinance that would also be able to allow us the restriction of contacting anybody that's in a handicap type situation.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, any questions from the council? No. Okay, seeing none, is there any public comment on this? Mr. Miles?
I hope tonight that you will pass this aggressive panhandling ordinance. believe there's another reason why you need to do this, and I also would like to make a suggestion. I have attended 2 of Eric Taylor's Field of Dreams meeting, and people that attended that meeting expressed the concern, the homeless population we do have behind Safeways. Because if we if Eric is, if he's lucky enough to get enough input from the community, and because of the apathy we have here, we need to solve this aggressive panhandling. Then we need to solve the problem of the homeless population behind Safeways. We have a day-use park back there, and it has become the home of the homeless. Thus, the community cannot fully enjoy that area. I had a laugh in Saturday's paper. There was a story about a woman on a bicycle, and I found out later that this person could have been a homeless person. Went into my grocery store, Safeways, kifted a bag of candy and some steaks, and our fine police department caught her on her bicycle. Donna keeps asking about what can the city do for the poor. Well, one of the things you could do, Donna, is maybe yourself would write a letter to the Fish and Game Commission and tell them to clean up that mess back there.
Thank you, Mr. Miles. Is there any other public comment on this issue? Seeing none, we'll close public comment, and I would entertain a motion to adopt the second reading.
I move to adopt ordinance 753, an ordinance of the City of Crescent City, adding Chapter 9.18, prohibited solicitation, to the Crescent City Municipal Code.
Second.
Okay, could you please pull the vote?
Yes, ma'am. Councilmember Slurt?
Yes.
Councilmember Westfall?
Yes.
Councilmember Burns?
Yes.
Councilmember Murray?
Yes.
Mayor Shalom?
Yes, thank you. Okay, we are going to move on to item number 11 under new business. Receive certification by the county clerk and city clerk of the results of the petition filed pertaining to the city sewer fees, and take action pursuant to California Elections Code 9215. Mr. Butler.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor and members of the council, you're aware that in the fall of last year, Councilmember Westfall and Crescent City resident Rachel Tao circulated an initiative petition that related to sewer rate levels and advocating a rollback of those levels. We contracted with the Del Norte County Clerk Recorder, Registrar of Voters Office to actually conduct a signature verification process for us. And tonight we are bringing before you the results, certified results of that process on the initiative petition. There were found to be 178 sufficient signatures, and there were 171 that were needed to qualify at the 10% qualification level. So you can see as one of the attachments to your report to the actual certificate from Elisa Northrup, who is the acting County Clerk Registrar of Voters, certifying her results, what she and her staff determined to be the sufficient number of valid signatures. So the next step in the process, now that that has been determined, is the city actually has 3 options, and I've listed those in the staff report. You could choose to just adopt the ordinance as it was circulated in the initiative petition without any alteration, at tonight, excuse me, at tonight's meeting, since you're receiving the certification of the results this evening, or within 10 days after those results were presented to you. You could submit the ordinance without alteration to the voters as part of a special election process, and that's pursuant to Section 1405 of the California Elections Code. Or you could exercise option 3. This is what we're recommending, and that would be that you order a report pursuant to California Elections Code 9212 at the regular meeting at which the certification is presented. So that's tonight. And I've discussed in the report, the Elections Code describes some of the issues that we should look at as part of this report of impacts. A lot of it has to do with land use, planning issues, zoning. Those are not particularly relevant to this report. Most of what we'll be focusing on will be financial impacts. And impacts, for example, number 5, impacts on the community's ability to attract and retain businesses and employment. There are several things that we'll be focusing on in this report, but as of this evening, we feel the wisest course of action for you to take is to direct the staff, first of all, to receive and file the certified results so that the council is now accepting those formally from the county clerk and from the city clerk. And then that you go ahead and direct us, you directed us at the December 7th meeting to begin the process of studying the initiative and its impacts. Now that these certified results are in, we're requesting that you direct us to actually produce this report. And we believe that we'll be ready to go at the next regular business meeting, March 1st, with that report that will look at the impacts of the rate rollback measure, specifically focusing on the financial and budgetary impacts. So that's our recommendation. If you have any questions, we'll be glad to try to field those for you.
Okay. Mr. Slurt, do you have any questions?
Not at this time.
Ms. Westfall?
About Alyssa Northrup, we found that there were many signatures that were considered non-sufficient, and so the numbers are not accurate. People are handing in complaints to the Secretary of State because they've been registered voters for many years, yet the county clerk's office felt that they were not valid. Also, in the minutes, Mayor Shalong was disappointed to hear that the estimate $4,000 to $5,000 was going to be more expensive because I spent time talking to county employees, but this is incorrect. And I believe you have a letter from Alyssa Northrup saying that the proponents are allowed to request information. It's not to increase any cost to the city whatsoever. So those are just a couple comments I wanted to make.
We have not received that letter as a council, but thank you. Okay. Mr. Burns?
No comment.
No, Ms. Murray? Okay. Is there any public comment on this? Mr. Miles?
I have 2 comments. Here we go again. Our one-horse pony candidate went around and collected signatures from some of the naive people that live in the city who don't really study the issues but will sign anything. But they signed it. In this country, we have a democracy, unfortunately, sometimes. But I got 2 questions. The people signed this petition. Now, the city can, my understanding is put this on the May ballot. At that time, legally, and Bob can correct me if I'm wrong, on this ballot, the city can respond to the initiative with an education process that says why this is a foolish idea. But now I have a question. I'm aware that there's many residents living in the city that has old septic tanks. And where I come from, I want to know if I can go into the city permit office and talk to Linda and see if I can build a 4x8 structure with a crescent moon on it and a one-seater, and dig a hole in my side yard deep enough where I could put this little house over, keep it clean by throwing lime in it. When it fills up, have permission to move it and dig another hole. Because in reality, if we are bankrupt, when my landlord increases my fees, that you'll probably do for some excuse, I'm really thinking seriously about going to Home Depot, getting enough lumber to build, where I come from in Idaho, is called a outhouse. And if I would take care of it nicely, it wouldn't smell.
We would appreciate it if you didn't do that. Thank you, Richard. Is there any other public comment? Ms. Mangum?
Well, if I could just respond to that, it's important, I think, to keep the record straight that the election will not be in May of 2010, but in November of 2010.
Ms. Mangum?
It's not going to be a special election.
Jody Mangum, City of Crescent City. Mr. Black probably remembers when this was supposed to go through in 2007, but you hired the people out of Sacramento to deny the referendum because, quote, as a, end quote, wasn't on it. Now we're 2 years into the project, and you guys are wondering why this is coming up. It came up in 2007. I like your new strategy, quickly taking notes while people are public commenting. Too bad the camera at home on the internet doesn't show the reactions of the council when you're trying to tell them something that you think is important. I read the studies, and the study said that $29 million for the loan was supposed to come from new hookups. That was how it was presented. And then I'm kind of curious, too, you know, no wonder our state is in so much trouble. We're a community that's 60% out of below poverty, and they want us to pay back a $42 million loan. People can't afford it. People have come up to this podium time after time to tell you guys they can't afford it. Then you add on 10 years, saying you don't have to increase the fee or whatever. But it just increases the cost of our plant by $19 million in interest over additional time. I don't know, you know, how you guys think of these things. So anyway, just to remind you that this was attempted in 2007, and you guys, the council, spent money. How much? About $5,678 or something like that. Less than the Register of Voters office was paid to deny the referendum in 2007. The people remember. So when I get up here and I speak, this isn't just me talking. The community remembers us because they signed it back then too. And Richard, they don't accept your signature at the voters registration. They say it doesn't match. I know you. I know you signed it. But this is how things are going in the community, and the community should know that they might want to make sure that their votes are being counted, because it does seem to be a big problem. Thank you.
Is there any other public comment?
Can I respond to that, Mayor?
Sure.
What she said is just false. Just false. It's just a lie. That the referendum was denied because the words "as of" were not in it. And any person, any citizen of this city that wants a copy of the letter that denied the referendum is entitled to a copy, and we will give it to them. And they can see why. Not what she said, but the real reasons.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment?
I would like a copy of that letter.
You may have it.
Thank you. And it was 15 cents. It was off by 15 cents. And when this whole thing started, I never even got a letter that this was going to go through.
Ms. Mangum, thank you. Is there any other public comment? Is it,
I have the right to come up here and defend myself when I'm called a liar.
Please.
I didn't call you a liar. Now
That's a lie?
Okay, Mr. Black,
You're doing it
Mr. Black, don't indulge.
No, I want to point out, I did not call her a liar. I said what she said was a lie.
I understand.
And number two, that letter was widely distributed to your whole group, Jody. I'd be shocked if you never saw it before.
We're not going to continue this discussion. Is there any other public comment? Seeing none, public comment is closed.
I would like to say that I take notes on every public comment so that I can remember, and it's not a form of disrespect or to pretend like I'm trying to do something else so I'm not listening. I do this with everyone that speaks, and I put your name so that I can remember what you said. I think it's my way of honoring what a person says.
Thank you. Okay. Where am I? Number 11. Thank you. The council.
I'd like to make a motion to receive certification by the county clerk and city clerk of the results of the petition filed pertaining to city sewer fees and take related action pursuant to the California Elections Code, specifically the recommendation number 3 by our city manager to direct the staff to produce the financial impact report. And I would just add that I think there might be some benefit. I mean, ultimately it's about educating our citizens about the reality of actions that have been taken against the city and have been proposed. And to the degree of trying to educate the city, I'm wondering if we couldn't consider using Channel 4 as one of the vehicles to help get the information out to the citizens about the reality of these proposed ideas.
Well, we can definitely, have a lengthy discussion when the report is submitted, because I know that a lot of people watch the council meetings.
I'd like to second that then.
Thank you. Now, I just want to be clear. We are recommending item number 3 in your motion.
That's what I heard.
Okay. And Bob, could you please clarify? I thought that there had been some action taken to, what am I trying to say? I don't know what the action is, but I thought there was an action taken to have this analyzed, the actual initiative, as whether or not it was a legal initiative.
That's completely separate. This is only to do with the fiscal issues. What would be the effect if it passes and goes into effect? So the assumption of this study that you're asking your staff to do is, if this goes all the way down the road, gets voted on, is approved, goes into effect, what are the fiscal ramifications to the city? How do we...
And the ratepayers.
How will it affect us? How will we absorb that effect?
Okay, thank you. And so the movement to challenge the initiative itself is still moving forward?
Oh, yes.
Thank you.
But it's not time for that. Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify that they were either one action or two separate, so thank you. Okay, I have a motion and a second. Will you please pull the vote?
Yes, ma'am. Councilmember Westfall?
No.
Councilmember Burns?
Yes.
Councilmember Murray?
Yes.
Councilmember Slurt?
Yes.
And Mayor Shalom?
Yes. Ms. Westfall, can I ask you, are you not interested in the fiscal impacts on the city and its residents?
If it includes the people that are at or below poverty level, and if that figure is 60%, and you include what it's going to do to them, then I would be in favor of this report.
Thank you for clarifying. Okay, we're going to move on to item number 12. Consider and approve a format and a date for a city council workshop on the annexation process.
Yes, Mayor, members of the council, as recently as the last meeting, the mayor mentioned that she wanted a report from staff on the annexation process. That is, the issue of annexation has been discussed also recently by Councilman Slurt and others. Discussed briefly moving forward on harbor annexation back in April of last year, and the council actually appointed a harbor annexation subcommittee. The harbor board also appointed a subcommittee at that time to look at the possibility of annexation. I was thinking about the best way to try to handle this and try to get some positive progress moving forward, and I think the best thing for all of us would be to set up a workshop on the annexation process. What I'm envisioning is probably 90 minutes to 2 hours, 45 minutes to an hour on the LAFCO planning, land use aspects of annexation, how that works, what's involved, what the timelines are, what LAFCO's role is, what the city's role is. I've already talked to George Williamson, the executive officer of our Del Norte County LAFCO. He not only is willing to be our presenter for that portion, but is excited about that and thinks it would be a good idea, especially when we have 3 council members that have just been elected since November of 2008, and since the city really hasn't seriously looked at annexation since about 1999-2000, so that even predates the mayor in terms of being a council member. So we just think that would be a good educational process. The second 45 minutes to an hour would be focused on the financial aspects of annexation, and I gave my little sermonette during the budget meeting last week about how important it is going to be for us to look at not just the zoning and land use aspects and service provision aspects, but what will it cost or what will it benefit us financially to do annexations, and what's involved in evaluating all of those financial questions. So we would identify a second expert, and I have a couple of candidates in mind, including George Williamson put me in touch with the man. He's still around, he's still working. He's based out of the Bay Area, but he's the gentleman who did the financial analysis for the city the last time we looked at harbor annexation, which was 1999-2000. Had a couple of email exchanges with him. He's, like I say, he's still in the business. He's willing to come up and be part of that presentation if we choose to go that route. We'd have to see if he's available.
Is there a cost for that?
I'll have to check that out. I doubt he's going to be willing to do it out of the goodness of his heart, so I would have to look at, George is saying, you know, this is part of his role as the LAFCO executive officer, so there's no charge for George. But I will definitely get clarification of the cost on this other expert, and if his fee is crazy, then I've got a couple of other options of people that I know that would be willing to do that for, if not a fee, then at least just their travel costs if they're coming from outside the area. So that would be the goal of the second portion, would be taking a hard look at all the financial aspects and how a financial analysis would be done. So I think we could learn a lot in that 90 minutes to 2 hours, and I included as part of the staff report, the mayor did what I call an SDD, a Shillong document dump on me recently, where she brought in a bunch of documents that she...
Not to be confused with other things, thank you.
That's better than an STD.
Yeah, I was going to say, well, I'm going to make sure it's SDD. It was kind of a treasure trove of information this time, and one of them were these 2 staff reports that I included. One was a Will Kaplinger Golden Oldie from April of 2008. It was actually from one of the last City Council Board of Supervisors meetings. And Will's report, actually, I thought did a pretty good job of at least giving his perspective of what areas we should look at for annexation, what some of the issues are. So that will be a good thing for you to look at before the workshop. And then Brother Naffa, Eli Naffa, had presented around that same time a proposal from from a consulting firm, kind of giving you an idea of what a financial fiscal impact analysis would look like, what the tasks would be. I didn't see a cost in here, which was disappointing because I'm curious as to what they were ballparking that kind of a study to be. But it's a good overview of the kinds of things that would need to be looked at if we were going to really seriously move forward. So.
Good. Well, I'm glad my dump was good for you.
That's right.
I save
SDD, baby.
Well, I save everything that I feel is important, and what he's actually referring to is I go back and review documents to see kind of where we're standing, and I thought that some of them might be very helpful for his knowledge of the history of some things that we've been dealing with. So.
Mr. Butler, she's done the same to me, too.
Okay.
Can we call it the MDD, the mayor document dump?
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we're basically, if the council's agreeable with going forward with a workshop, I really think that would be the best approach at this point. Both Ms. Rambo and I have been involved in some annexations in the past, but it's a totally different world where we come from in terms of Inland Empire, Southern California, where you're talking about huge, thousands of acres of undeveloped land. You've got billionaire developers sitting there chomping at the bit to develop it. This up here, what we're looking at in Del Norte County, it's going to be a very different kind of process where we're talking about infill areas and pockets of developed versus vacant lots and, huge publicly owned, huge sections of publicly owned land. So, we really need someone, I think, that can talk to us about with a local perspective and kind of get this ball rolling on.
Well, I think the process is important, but I think the financial impacts is even more important.
Yeah, definitely.
From what I've been told of historical annexations, they have not been good for the city financially, but maybe good for the residents. So you have to really weigh, the pros and cons of annexing. And I know that we're still today writing huge checks to the county for our previous annexations. So I'd like the financial part to be extremely accurate for the city, for this council to make decisions based on. Not sure we have much in the budget to have that done, but at the same time, very important. Council, assuming the workshop is agreeable.
Off Monday.
Yeah, that was my next question. Do you want to do one of those off Mondays at the fire hall?
How long do you think you're going to need?
I'm thinking 90 minutes to 2 hours.
I mean, like...
Oh, advanced lead time. I was looking at mid-March would be the soonest we'd be able to pull it together. It's about a month from now. We could also go into early April.
I'm actually going to be taking some time off at the end of March because I'm getting old.
Oh, that's right. The big birthday year.
I'm turning 40.
Yeah.
I want to be there.
Yeah, sure. Want to go early April? Or do you want to go?
How's everybody else's schedule?
April will probably be better.
After spring break is over? Let's see, the first meeting of
the
April
5th.
is the 5th, so it'd be April 12th?
Yeah, that's an off Monday.
Okay.
Okay, let's plan for that.
So we will tentatively set an annexation workshop for the City Council on Monday, April 12th at 5 p.m. at the Crescent Fire Hall if it's available.
Great.
Okay, we are going to move on to item 13, which is... No? Okay, Richard. Good night, Mr. Howard.
Good night, Chris.
Mr. Miles, come on, hurry.
A few years ago, my friend Mike Scavuzzo invited a gentleman from Sacramento here, and he has to do with the state economic development agency, and he came before this is for the new members' information. He came before the city council when Kelly and Dennis were members, and there was a joint meeting at that time. And he gave the county and the city his suggestion on areas of annexation and infill. And at that time, a number of citizens got up, and there's an area that doesn't connect in this town. We annexed Washington area, but the area between Washington and Highway 1 does not connect. That's the area over by Cooper Avenue and Pacific. I believe it's, if you're really going to think about annexation, you don't just consider the harbor. We have some of these close-in urban areas that are part of the county that in lifestyle and reality are within the city. There might be a blue line on a map, but the residents that live in these areas feel like they're city residents. Maybe Jody's comment's kind of true. You know, they live in the county, they can't vote on the sewer thing, but they got to flush their toilets too.
That was actually Krista.
That was actually Krista Norton's comment. Thank you, Richard. Is there any other public comment? Seeing none, Mr. Butler.
Before we leave this item completely, can you also check your calendars for 2 weeks later, which will be Monday, April 26th? I've got a note from George Williamson saying that he's gone from April 13th to the 16th. He doesn't mention the 12th, so hopefully that'll work for him. But if he's leaving, if he's traveling in the evening on the 12th, I just want to make sure we have a backup date that we can use. So Monday, 2 weeks later, will be Monday the 26th. Is that...
It might be brain dead after our home show, but I can...
Oh, that's right.
I can do it.
Okay. Good. So we'll do our best to get it locked in for the 12th.
Okay.
If not, we'll go 26th.
Thank you.
Sure.
Let's see. Moving on to item 13, adopt a resolution number 750.
No, it's actually 2010-02.
Okay, on ordinances. 2010-02. In support of the Local Taxpayer Public Safety and Transportation Protection Act. Mr. Butler.
Yes, Mayor and Council. The Mayor has mentioned a couple times recently that the League of California Cities is sponsoring and is currently in a signature gathering process right now for a statewide ballot initiative that they are shooting to get on the November 2010 ballot that would basically build on Proposition 1A that was approved by the voters in 2004 as a way of trying to protect local government revenue sources from state grabs of revenue. That Prop 1A has been very helpful and very effective, but not perfect, as we found out this past summer with the property tax and redevelopment fund grab. So this would be kind of a son of Proposition A that would try to take care of some of the loopholes that were left and that some of our creative folks in Sacramento have found to continue to try to grab local revenues. The mayor and I have, for understandable reasons, had to be very careful about, and will have to continue to be careful about, what we do with city resources and on city time to advocate this measure. We'll be contacting you outside of city official time about aspects of the campaign that you may want to choose to participate in as individuals, but it is appropriate for the council to take a position of support as a council for the measure.
Right. For instance, I believe that at some point they will be sending out information for, anybody that would want to support this cause to actually go out and collect signatures and do those kinds of things. But those things have to be on your own time. any communication regarding this cannot be on, for instance, Mr. Butler can't send out an email to a bunch of people on his city computer, you know, supporting the cause or asking for people to support it. It's just one of those political, ethical kinds of things that we don't get hit with very often from a California League of Cities viewpoint. So, but if you were to find yourself to be passionate enough about the cause, you could participate on a personal level.
So our recommendation tonight is that you, as a council, as a body, that you pass this resolution in support of the measure. Just wanted, without going into a lot of detail on the contents of the measure, one specific thing that this one addresses that the original Prop 1A did not would be gas tax funds or local transportation funds. That was kind of a loophole that was left in the last one, and now we've seen the legislature try to come after local funds in that area. So that's just one specific area that they're focusing on to try to shore up the defenses.
Okay. Is there any public comment? Seeing none, we'll close public comment and bring it back to the council. Can I get a motion?
Madam Mayor, I'd move that we approve a resolution in support of the Local Taxpayer Public Safety and Transportation Protection Act of 2010-02.
Thank you.
Second. Oh, go ahead, Catherine.
Could you please pull the vote?
Yes, ma'am. Councilmember Westfall?
Yes.
Councilmember Burns?
Yes.
Councilmember Slurt?
Yes.
Councilmember Murray?
Yes.
And Mayor Shalom?
Yes, thank you. Moving on to item 14, consider and adopt resolution 2010-03, which is pertaining to the execution of the agreement and any amendments on the H Street project. Mr. Weir, nice to see you.
Nice to see you as well. I've actually grouped items number 14 and 15 together in the presentation I'm about to give you. This is because they're funded by the same source. They're both ARA projects.
Okay, so let me just summarize that to the public. Item number 15 will be consider and adopting resolution 2010-04, which will be authorizing our Public Works Department to execute the agreement and any amendments on the 5th Street project, which is a rehabilitation and pedestrian improvement project for contract 2010-020. Thank you.
Yeah, so these have been a couple projects that we've been working on for quite some time, ever since the ARA funding became available. Due to some of the lengthy paperwork process, we've been sort of delayed through the winter months, and now we're ready to actually go out to bid and get these projects completed. So the first project is the H Street handicap, basically the access ramp improvement project. We are going to go through and either reconstruct or rehabilitate all of the access ramps between Front Street and 11th Street on H Street. H Street is a significant collector street for the city. It kind of connects downtown to 9th Street, which connects the schools and the highway and everything. So as you can see here, here's just a couple of shots of the existing ramps that we have that are either completely non-compliant, which you see this ramp that's located just across the street from this building at 10th and H, which has a completely inaccessible curb cut here, or it consists of access ramps that are technically a ramp, but yet they don't meet any of the current standards and are very hard for pedestrians in wheelchairs or with certain handicaps to actually access. The scope of this project is to reconstruct approximately 34 ramps and then to rehabilitate 3 ramps. By rehabilitate, they meet the current slope standards, they meet the sort of the functionality of the ramps themselves. However, they don't have a panel or the transition lines that you might need. So that's what we're going to do as far as the rehabilitation goes. And then we're also going to construct about 1,500 square feet of sidewalk to connect the ramps into the existing sidewalk. The project, like I said earlier, is funded by ARA funds. And the estimate for this is $150,000. That is basically what we've been allotted for the project. So in the estimate, we've also included a 10% contingency for anything that might come up. Here are the project plans. And again, city staff has completed these plans entirely in-house. You can see that we've went through and evaluated each of the curb corners along 8th Street and taken a thorough look at the project in depth for which style of ramp would fit best, any conflicts that we might have, and so forth and so on. So if you have any questions about any particular intersection, let me know. Moving on to 5th Street. This is a street rehabilitation as well as a pedestrian improvement project. You can see that the corners on 5th are inaccessible as well, and the street is in a deteriorated state. The scope of this is to reconstruct 6 ramps as well as rehabilitate the existing roadway, which basically means a thick overlay, about a 1/10 overlay, and then we'll do some dig outs in the spots where the structural section has been damaged. We'll actually go down, dig it out, and then replace that section. Again, this project is completely funded by our funds. We have been allotted $108,000 for this project. We expect to expend all of this money, as well as in the estimate we built in 10% contingency. See the plans for 5th Street. Again, completed in-house. Basically, it's just what we talked about here. We'll actually go, this is A Street here, and this would be the intersection of Wendell. So we would actually go through the intersection of Wendell. These are the 6 ramps we would be doing in our standard details. And then this is just a cut of one of the ramps that I actually showed in the front slide there, where it has a conflict with a telephone pole, street light pole, so we'll actually build a custom ramp in this spot. This 5th Street project is an interesting project, as when you combined it with our microsurfacing project, with the overlays we did in 2004, as well as the project that we have funding for the A Street to Front Street S-curve realignment, it will basically, if you follow my cursor here, you'll be able to go from Front Street through the S-curve along A to 5th. This is the portion we will rehabilitate during this project. The microsurfacing project will take us through this other S-curve. The 2004 overlay project takes you down Pebble Beach through the microsurfacing project, and this whole route, this whole heavily used route, will have been rehabilitated. So it's a key piece to that project.
That's good.
And then just the request that you stated earlier to authorize us to go out to bid on these 2 projects, and then adopt the resolutions stating that the Director of Public Works can basically sign all agreements with Caltrans.
Great, thank you. Is there any questions from the council?
One question. Does the ARA funds help pay for the engineering drawings that our city staff is doing?
Not on the front half of the project. However, we, in the estimate and all the agreements that we signed with Caltrans, we did put $1,000 into that. So how the city's been viewing this is whatever we don't use on construction, we can then allocate back to staff time, either in construction inspection or as we move forward with the project. So I believe from this point forward, it can, if there's money available.
I have a question. Are the bids being sought from local contractors?
Yes, in the bid package, we'll have our local contractors ordinance, our local bidding ordinance that was adopted last year, I believe.
They're actually advertised, and any contractor can bid on them. However, because of the ordinance that we adopted, the local contractors will have that preference.
Right, good.
Yeah, so we will advertise in the Del Norte Building Exchange, the Humboldt Building Exchange, as well as the other building exchanges in the triple kit and on the radio.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions, council?
No.
Okay, public comment. Mr. Miles.
I have a concern, and I want to express my concern because of some past history that has occurred in this community. When we have given authorization for our public works director and not our city manager to sign contracts. I want to explain this for a number of reasons. I want to refresh your memory on 2 projects that in the past we gave our city engineer, and this was under two different people. One of them was the 9th Street project a number of years ago. There were a number of cost overruns.
How many years ago?
9.
Okay.
It was when Mike Young was our city engineer. Project was not done right. Thomas Ranch dragged his feet, and we were supposed to sue him to recover funds. And in the end, it cost the city money because the contractor came back on us. And then there was a famous parking lot at Kidstown that cost us twice because of the neglect of the city engineer at that time. And again, we tried to sue the person for cost overruns, and we lost that case too because Thomas Ranch dragged his feet. I believe the only person that should sign contracts on behalf of the council should be the city manager, not the city engineer. And then the only body that has the authority to approve cost overruns is my city council, because they are the legislature body who controls the city coffers. So my suggestion tonight that you allow both the city manager and Mr. Barnes to sign this contract with Caltrans and the different contractors, but you keep the purse strings in hand if there's any cost overruns.
Thank you, Mr. Miles. This has nothing to do with Caltrans, first of all. And secondly, this council always has the authority when a contract has an amended or increased cost. Thank you. Mr. Miles, please. Mr. Miles, sit. Please sit. No, you don't.
Yes, I do.
Next comment, I'm going to ask you to leave. Okay, bring this back to the council if you have any further questions. And if not, I'll take a motion to approve each project. The H Street project, Resolution 2010-03 first.
Before we get to that, is there any advantage or disadvantage to having the city manager also sign contracts?
I was actually going to ask both Jim and Eric if there's any, from just an operations standpoint, or Caltrans or anyone you're dealing with, are they asking for it to be the Public Works Director? Or because I would be glad to just assume that signature authority.
They actually stated that it could either be the city manager, city attorney, or director of public works. And so it's all this is doing is giving the director of public works the authority to sign master agreements with Caltrans, because Caltrans is the agency that does sort of delegate the money and delegate these ARA projects. So that is the only agreement that this will allow the public works director to sign. It doesn't have anything to do with approving the project, via the project contract or change orders, or anything to do with the money side of the project.
Well, I don't agree with you,
Okay.
because what we're reading is that this allows the Director of Public Works to execute the agreements and any amendments for the project.
As far as Caltrans is concerned, with the master agreement.
But it doesn't
with,
say anything about Caltrans. Is it because it's an ARA fund that it's going through Caltrans?
Yes.
Okay.
So all of the ARA funding has been, from the federal government down through Caltrans to local government. So Caltrans local agency.
See, I would read this as whoever was the successful bidder, that agreement would be signed by our Public Works Director.
No.
But
No, that's not how I understand it.
Actually, the resolution talks about California Department of Transportation. That's what the resolution states. It states, now therefore be it resolved, blah, 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 and any amendments thereto with the California Department of Transportation for the H Street pedestrian access ramp improvement projection contract number. So it does deal specifically with Caltrans in the resolution.
I think Mr. Miles brought up a very good point, and having our city manager and Mr. Barnes signing the contracts sounds very appropriate to me.
That would be fine. If the council wishes to have the city manager sign all the contracts, that is acceptable as well.
Yeah.
I don't care who signs them. I just want to be clear who we're, what part of, what agreement we're giving direction to have signed, because I was misinformed.
And so there are some preliminary agreements that need to be signed with Caltrans, regardless of who the contractor is. Just agreements between Caltrans and the city. So that's what this resolution is.
Okay, so I would like whoever makes this motion.
I would move that we adopt Resolution 2010-03, which is a resolution with the city and Caltrans. Okay? And that the city manager sign in addition to Director of Public Works. That that be added to this resolution.
And does, I'm just, can I get a second?
I'll second.
Okay, discussion. Does that mean they're going to have to come back to us to?
I'm amending this resolution.
No, let me finish. Does that mean they're going to have to come back to us to have us authorize you or Jim or whoever to sign the contract when it's bid?
Yeah, there'll be a whole process where you have to award the contract to the
Okay.
specific contractors.
This is just to get the bucks. Then we can actually take it out to bid.
Okay.
And then Tidewater or Hemmingson or Snoozy can bid on the jobs.
So we'll come back to you in a little bit. We have to put it out to bid for 30 days, so we'll be back in.
This is just to procure the funding.
Okay, I didn't understand it, so I apologize. Okay.
So that's my
I
motion.
have a motion and a second on 2010-03. Could you please pull the vote?
Yes, ma'am. Councilmember Burns?
Yes.
Councilmember Slurt?
Yes.
Councilmember Westfall?
Yes.
Councilmember Murray?
Yes.
Mayor Shalom?
Yes. And can I get a motion for 2010-04, which is the same exact wording, except for the project is A Street to Wendell, and with the addition?
Yes, I move that we adopt Resolution 2010-04, resolution with the city and essentially Caltrans on the Fifth Street project with Caltrans to include the city manager's name and director of
Public Works. Thank you.
I'll second that.
Okay, and this includes the recommendation to advertise for the bids too, is that correct? I didn't hear
We're
that.
not even, we're just getting the money.
Okay, all
The
right.
bids will-
Yeah, the wording was a little
So now
misleading.
there's the presentation's gone, but there's sort of three requests here. There's the request for you to give authorization to advertise for bids,
That's what I was confused
And
about,
to approve
okay.
resolution.
and then to approve each resolution.
Okay,
Yes, this is to authorize the bids.
okay, all right.
That's just publicly stating what they are,
Okay,
not
The
approving
bids to be advertised.
So then we'll advertise, all the contractors will get a set of plans, they'll put their bid together and bid with us, then we'll.
Do
bring
we
it
have an
back.
attorney write this?
This is to authorize the bids for both.
okay,
the
I
A
hadn't
Street
heard
and
that
H Street.
articulated, is why I was asking.
So we'll authorize, yes, if you guys could give us permission to go out to bid, that would be
Okay,
great.
all right.
Okay, I'd like to make this just clear in summary. We as a council are authorizing a resolution to be signed to accept the ARA funding from Caltrans. We are also authorizing the Public Works Department to advertise this bid and to accept bids for each project.
Yes.
Thank you.
Good, okay.
Yeah, that was part of my,
And I have a motion and a second. Would you please pull the vote?
Councilmember Murray?
Yes.
Councilmember Westfall?
Yes.
Councilmember Slurt?
Yes.
Councilmember Burns?
yes.
And Mayor Shalom?
Yes, and thank you for helping me through that.
My apologies.
It's not your fault.
Good work.
Before Mr. Weir sits down, I wanted to let you all know that as of this morning, we found out that both Mike Young and Eric Weir are on their way to Haiti for 2 weeks. So you leave Monday, right?
Leave Monday.
Next
Really?
Monday. So we're
We're working
kind
on a
of
few water and sanitation projects, are we?
Actually, it's going to be for structural evaluation. It's with,
I'm sure it's all up to code, Coach.
oh, yeah. Yep. No, unfortunately, in talking with Mike, most of their buildings were built out of unreinforced masonry type of buildings
Right.
and with no lateral strength. So this will be working with a group that particularly works with children's services. So this will be evaluating schools and churches and orphanages and whatnot. So
That is going to be a tough trip.
yes.
yeah.
Very proud of you.
Safe journey.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
So it'll be it's definitely a bit of a surprise when it all came together this morning. But yes, it's going to be it'll be life changing. I have a feeling. So
Go make a difference.
Mm-hmm.
try.
Wow, very cool.
Yes.
We have very cool people that work for us.
Yes, we do.
Okay, moving on to 16. We have an amended JPA agreement for the Border Coast Regional Airport Authority, and this is just a very simple adjustment to the agreement. I'll just summarize that Curry County has finally chosen to be a part of the Joint Powers Authority, which is just great news. And so basically, because we are a member, this is just us formally accepting the amended JPA, which includes Curry County as a member.
That's
Is there
true.
any questions from the council?
Fantastic.
Actually, I did. The formation of the JPA is to get multiple bodies to the table to help secure funding. And I think that this actually will broaden our base and increase the funding potential.
Well, it definitely, having Oregon entities has definitely been important in several facets, one being the support from the Oregon legislature, and two, the opportunities that we've been afforded to apply for grants that actually come from Oregon. So yes, definitely a benefit. And they too are benefiting from our opportunities from the California side.
Correct. That's a wonderful thing, very positive. But just in follow-up, at some point, will the city and each of these entities be asked to participate financially?
At this point, no. If that ever comes up, this council will have the opportunity to review and discuss our role at that point.
But it's very significant because now we have the Oregon congressional representation as well as California congressional.
Well, we already did because the city of Brookings has been a member all along, but having the actual county of Curry added will just make it that much stronger. And the one thing that is I like to remind people or point out is that this is a joint powers authority between two cities, two counties now, as well as a sovereign nation. And hopefully in the future, we will be including Smith River Rancheria as well when they have the authority to do so. And from what I've been told, and our perception is it may be the first in the United States to have a JPA that consists of those members. So that's pretty cool as well. So unless there's any further questions or any public comment on the authority, seeing none, we'll close that. And if I could just get a motion to approve and authorize me to sign the amended JPA.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Catherine Burns.
Okay, thank you.
Please pull the vote.
And would I not include you then, since we're authorizing you to sign it? Or would you be included?
Yeah, I believe I'm included.
Okay. Councilmember Westphal?
Yes.
Councilmember Burns?
Yes.
Councilmember Murray?
Yes.
Councilmember Slurt?
Yes.
And Mayor Shalom?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Do we have any legislative matters this evening?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Let's see. Mr. Burns, do you have any reports, concerns, referrals?
Oh, I've jotted down some things while people were talking tonight. some things like who's not listening, and after grand jury reports and many public hearings and opinions on conflict of interest that have been settled by the state agencies, I guess I want to know who's not listening. And then when I can be accused of being a crook, and city and county crooks are out there, it's so much easier to be negative and cast dispersion than to tell the truth, because you can say whatever you'd like, and threats like I've made to myself and staff members on taking kickbacks and bribes without any evidence, which is a blatant lie. And speaking of hysteria, in the city, I'd like, when the hysteria is that the city is causing people to become homeless. And I find that to be hysteria, let alone the nation's economy is being, not that the nation's economy and that is affecting people's livelihoods, but I just find that interesting. That's my comment.
Thank you. Mr. Slurt?
I have a handful of items I'd like to follow through on. One is our trees of mystery. I observed that it appears that something is moving forward, although we have not been approached, Mr. Burns and myself, the ad hoc committee, regarding what's intended. But I see that there's 15 flags that have been placed in the earth to replace something like 22 trees that were there originally. So a couple things. There was a yellow flag, and there were like 8 orange flags and 6 blue flags. So that probably
at the courthouse?
Yes, that probably indicates different types of trees that we've had no input in.
Did you follow up after the last meeting with Mr.
Unterkoffler?
Yes.
Yeah, that's when I got basically the same response about that they're assembling these trees, they've ordered these trees, but it doesn't address the issue of, they were supposed to come back with at least what their plan was for what they wanted to do there before they started buying stuff. And I think maybe the option at this point would be for me to write a letter basically explaining
the agreement.
And how the landmark ordinance works, because even though there's some question as to whether we can apply the landmark ordinance on state-owned property, they basically said they were going to try to honor the spirit of the landmark ordinance, including maybe even replacing some Monterey cypress trees in some other location in addition to what they replace.
And I think actually
courthouse,
our ordinance calls for the replacement of 2 for every 1 tree that is removed. So, I mean, there seems to be a discrepancy here, and I'm a little perplexed that I think as the city we've let ourselves down a little bit in that the state has kind of had us because we didn't cross every T and dot every I.
Well, I would recommend that maybe Rod draft a letter and send it out to you and Dennis just to review, and then move forward with that.
Very good. And then we're going to have Mr. City Manager, a report regarding the recall and the initiative petition costs to date.
Yes, we are still waiting for the invoice from the county clerk recorder's office. That's kind of the big piece of information that I wanted to include with that next report, that next update. We have gone through and received the updates from staff on all their time and the attorney's invoices. So all that's been updated and is ready. I would just like to, once we get that county invoice, include that as part of one package so we can update you on.
And also keep in mind that this council asked for a legal fiscal update on all legal costs. It's not a narrow request. It's a request of our fiscal costs as a whole.
That's correct.
Yeah, thank you.
And I just wanted to mention that yesterday was President's Day, and as I drove down North Crest, I was delighted to see all the American flags out in front of our mayor's workshop.
I have nothing to do with it. I think it's maybe the Boy Scouts.
Yeah, you can pay him.
But
come out and do
there's a
that.
part of me that just says, if we could do something like that in our downtown, it'd be very positive and constructive and patriotic. But I didn't see the quantity of flags out there. So it's just something that I think we could consider. We went through some budget items last meeting, and I'm wondering if I've done a little bit of homework, and as I understand, the city originally had a franchise for trash collection, and then the franchise was moved over to the Solid Waste Authority, as I understood, where the county also participated. And I think the intent of this Solid Waste Authority as a JPA, which is I think the intent of all JPAs, is to have the most cost-effective, efficient organization you can have to deliver a product or services. Because we went through the budget and we're looking at continued challenges, I'm wondering if there's something to reinvestigating the idea of the city participating or reenacting its own trash franchise. And the reason I bring this up is we're paying, as citizens of the city, we're paying for people in Smith River and in Klamath to have their trash picked up, I think at a similar rate for all of us. So there's mileage and time involved in that transfer, and I'm wondering if it's really efficiently serving the citizens of the city, or if in fact it's not. So I raised the question.
Well, the only comment that I would have is serving as a JPA member, there's a lot more to the trash collection business than what meets the eye. And I think there would be a very large and significant investment that we would have to make to start our own business. Dennis, you have a lot more experience than I do.
There's a whole lot more to deal with. Let's see if this works. There's a lot more dealing with recyclables, all kinds of fluorescents, sharps, hazardous wastes, that as a joint powers agreement you can deal with a lot more effectively. I think obviously franchise fees support the Solid Waste Authority and the transfer station in hazardous waste, clean up some of the grants and stuff, go to those things. So I think it's something that I think would be probably Kevin would love to come and talk about that, either at a workshop or at a regularly scheduled meeting.
And I don't know if I was necessarily thinking in terms of the city taking the role of a franchisee as compared to subbing it out for the city itself.
Would act as our own bargaining unit, so to speak, and instead of it would be a joint authority, it would be as a city, and we could bid out our own.
Right, which ultimately would
we'd collect a franchise fee instead of the franchise fee going to the joint powers.
So I raised the question, and maybe that's something that either we can have a report or my colleagues sitting on that board could raise.
You want me to bring something back later?
That'd be great.
Okay.
And then I've attended recently with the mayor the Elk Valley Rancheria 2x2. We didn't have meeting agendas or meeting minutes. We talked about the local coastal plan update that's being required, and we talked about spheres of influence and the Coastal Commission requirements, options, and or implications. And then I've attended El Tico and Redwood Coast Transit Authority boards with Councilmember Murray studied new things like the buses are going to have advertisements on them shortly in the future. So that was a fairly involved discussion. And then we made an action to, in goodwill, work or partnership with Lake County regarding some funding so that they could purchase a bus this year, and then next year they'll help us back. And then I attended with Ms. Murray IGRC meeting, and Jan Morehouse at that meeting suggested that perhaps we could consider using Channel 4 as an educational tool for the city, since it's the city channel. And then I attended last week American Heritage Foundation. It was the first meeting that we had, and that's 3 counties, Mendocino, Humboldt, and Del Norte. It was here. And the discussion was, what's the common thing? Obviously, it's the redwoods. We talked about the redwood curtain and how to celebrate that. I think there's something like 50, if I remember, American Heritage sites across the country. So this would, the discussion is to add this to that national registry. And it would probably be beneficial for everybody involved. That's all I have.
Thank you for going to that meeting. Ms. Murray?
Councilmember Slurt mentioned the LTC and the RCT and the IGRC. So I'll just remind everyone that we have a Parks grant meeting tomorrow night at 5:30. Is it at the Cultural Center or the Fire? Where is that?
Yeah, I think he's doing all of those at the I Street Fire Hall.
Okay, so hopefully there'll be some interested people who are listening that might attend that. And then that's at 5:30 tomorrow night, or?
That's right.
Okay, and then we know about the crab, wine, and cheese, and we also hope that everyone will attend the Mural Society fundraiser that same evening later on. So those are my announcements.
Thank you. Okay, let's see, what have I done? I actually met with Steve Cheney, who's the superintendent of parks here locally about a week and a half ago, more or less just because I wanted to understand the relationship between the state and national parks, and their building is within the city, and just, how we can work together in the future, and got an update from him on the Joint Visitor Center project, and they had their first meeting last week, which was facilitated, and he reported out to me that it went very well, and they have some actual goals. So he's going to include me on that email list, so we have information as we move forward with that. I did attend the Elk Valley Rancheria 2x2 meeting that Mr. Slurt spoke of. We did just speak about the sphere of influence, the general project area, and then also just got an update on the permit status for the pipeline for the project. And as we've went through this whole process, we've had our consultant come into closed session and inform the entire council of everything that happens in those meetings between staff and the rancheria. Had a really difficult budget meeting that we got through. Unfortunately, we are suffering due to a lack of revenues, but we are more importantly looking at how to solve those problems for the future so that we're not continuing that trend. I attended an airport JPA meeting. They also had another closed session today, which I was not able to attend, but still navigating our way through the appeals from the Coastal Commission and the Friends of Del Norte for the airport. Just an update, we've went through many alternatives to try to satisfy those involved, and it's getting pretty frustrating. and not sure exactly how it's going to turn out. But we should know the unfortunate part is that the Coastal Commission probably won't hear it in time for us to get into the 2010 funding cycle. So we're working on that issue as well. Going to attempt to attend a League of Cities division meeting, which is going to be February 26th. Not sure if I'm going to be able to make it because it's during my work day, but I'm going to attempt, and if not, I'll get a report out from Mr. Dahlorf to share with the rest of the council. And I think that's about it. I think we will adjourn this meeting to Monday, March 1st with a closed session at 5 p.m., regular session 6 p.m. Happy Fat Tuesday. Have a good night.
And our joint meeting next Monday.
Oh, that's right. And just real quick, we do have a joint city-county meeting. Joint city-county meeting on February 22nd here in this room at 6 p.m.